Welcome to the Creating Wealth Show with Jason Hartman. You're about to learn a new slant on investing, some exciting techniques, and fresh new approaches to the world's most historically proven asset class that will enable you to create more wealth and freedom than you ever thought possible. Jason is a genuine self-made multimillionaire who's actually been there and done it. He's a successful investor, lender, developer, and entrepreneur who's owned properties in 11 states, had hundreds of tenants, and been involved in thousands of real estate transactions. This program will help you follow in Jason's footsteps on the road to your financial independence day. You really can do it. And now, here's your host, Jason Hartman, with the complete solution for real estate investors.
Greetings from Palm Beach, Florida, and welcome to episode 1585. And here in Palm Beach, Florida, it is a chilly 73 degrees. It's windy, chilly, and beautiful outside. Wow, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful evening. Anyway, this is the eve of the big election, one of the most bitter and highly contested presidential elections, well, certainly of my lifetime, but maybe in the American lifetime. I'm not sure. I heard some of those in the past were pretty nasty way before my time, but again, I don't know. Don't know enough about it. So today we have John Truman Wolfe with us, and we're getting pretty political, but we're also talking about bail-ins, bank bail-ins, and the threat of that. We're talking about the demand for battery technology and lithium and things like that. So we're not going to talk a lot about real estate here. We definitely talked about the mass migration with the riots, otherwise known as the Joe Biden campaign rallies. Riot, Joe Biden campaign rally. It's about the same thing. It's certainly the same set of voters. No one could deny that. But yeah, so if anybody listening is bothered by political stuff, maybe needs a safe space, then this probably isn't the best episode for you. But I think you'll learn a lot from it because we talk about some pretty interesting topics. We've got some, we're going to start out with some comedy, some comedian. We're going to start out with the late Robin Williams, may he rest in peace. And Robin Williams, a long time ago, talking about Joe Biden, none other than Joe Biden and Robin Williams. So we'll have that in a moment. We got a little clip from Bill O'Reilly. We've got a clip, the man on the street type interview, where our reporter goes and interviews a whole bunch of people at Berkeley, otherwise known as Berkeley, that crazy college, my mom's alma mater up in Northern California, and then interviews a bunch of people to get their reaction in minority neighborhoods and see what they think of those elitist whiteys at Berkeley. Yeah, it's they're pretty insulting, pretty condescending, if you ask me. So we've got some clips of that, and we think it'll be an entertaining show for you. But the amazing thing about this election, and this is not a partisan statement, this is just probably a fact, and you can decide whether or not you think it's a sad fact or a good fact, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. But if Trump does not win tomorrow, if that should happen, he will likely be the last Republican president in America for a long, long, long time, because instantly we will see, and O'Reilly talks about this, 15 to 20 million, what do we call them? Hillary Clinton. Summon Hillary Clinton's words, workers without papers. Yes, we will see them get instant amnesty under a Biden administration, and that will almost guarantee a Democratic win for like any election coming up for a long, long time, because many of these groups, they get pandered to, and they get bamboozled by these liars that make promises and never deliver on them. It's amazing that a candidate like Biden, for example, just one of many, can make these promises for 47 years, almost 5 decades, to his various special interest groups, and their lives keep getting worse. Their standard of living, I'm judging it economically, but hey, you could judge it by drug use, education quality, healthcare availability, a whole bunch of other things, right? He makes all these promises to these groups like he's going to help them for 47 years, for almost 5 decades. Yet in every measurable category, their standard of living has gotten worse and worse and worse. Yet, how does he still win that vote? It's absolutely astonishing to me. If you can explain that to me, please comment. If you're on YouTube, just make a comment on the video. If you're only listening, then just go to jasonhartman.com/ask and let me know. Edumacate me, because I don't get it. I don't understand. But hey, we're going to do our election recap, get through this crazy week, and then we're going to be talking all about real estate. And I've got an upcoming course you're going to love, a great real estate course to teach you how to invest during these absolutely turbulent times that we're living in. So without further ado, let's get to our guest today, John Truman Wolfe, back again on the show. Here he is. It's my pleasure to welcome John Truman Wolfe back to the show. He is the author of several books, including The Coming Financial Crisis and the Strategic Intelligence newsletter, I believe, right? Did I have that right?
Strategic Financial Intelligence, Jason.
Strategic Financial Intelligence newsletter. John, welcome back. We had so many people that just loved your talk the last time. Over 120,000 views on YouTube, like 576 comments, people having whole conversations about bank bail-ins. And boy, we can talk about that. I know you want to talk about lithium prices and investments a little bit there, but tomorrow is a big day, isn't it, for not only the United States, but for the world. Who is going to be the next president and who's going to control the Senate? What are your thoughts?
Well, you're right. I mean, this is, all the talking heads on TV say it, but it's true. This is the most important election perhaps in American history. Certainly the most important election, if I have to go back in history to 1828, when Andy Jackson took out the second central bank of the United States. This is a big deal. It is a big deal, as you say, for the country. It's a big deal for the world. And, I'm the country sitting on pins and needles. And there's a lot at play here across the government, in all three branches of government. And, 24 hours.
Okay, so why is it a big deal? I have my opinion, but I want to hear yours.
Well, the choices are dramatically opposed.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have...
But they were the last time between Trump and Obama, or not Obama, but, the last time around when Trump was running. And I mean, I was so proud of America the day that Trump was inaugurated. And this is why, not because Trump became president so much, but this is what made me so proud, is the orderly, peaceful transfer of power. You saw Trump walk in and the Obamas walk out, and those two couldn't be more opposed. Right. And that's impressive. That just gives me goosebumps thinking about it. In other countries, that just would never happen. Some other countries it would, obviously, but it really, I'm impressed. The three branches of government, the checks and balances in hotly contested elections. Now I don't think this one's going to be peaceful, by the way, so I'm speaking too soon, but generally they've been pretty darn peaceful. But now it seems that Joe Biden campaign rallies, otherwise known as riots, are like a sport, sadly. And that's a whole nother topic. But it does impress me that, we can transfer power. So they're diametrically opposed. I mean, nothing is Hillary and Trump, are they more different than Biden and Trump? Are they more diametrically opposed?
Well, I think so. Diametrically opposed, I'm not so sure. I don't know what Joe Biden's policies are, frankly. I know what...
I don't think he knows.
No. No, he doesn't. I mean, once he locates what state he's in, and what office he's running for.
And who he's running against.
and that's right. And who he's not running against George Bush. Look, to be kind, the guy's at the beginning stages of dementia.
Oh, yeah.
And if he were to be elected, my opinion is he would not last 4 years.
Oh,
and Kamala Harris is a vindictive, nasty woman. This is trepidatious. And so if you look at the policies, Trump versus, Biden / Harris, then you begin to see how diametrically opposed they are. I mean, she is left, and she doesn't even have the integrity of like a Bernie Sanders. No. Bernie loves socialism. He's out there. He says it. He pushes his socialistic policies. Kamala Harris is covertly hostile.
Right.
And so it is Trump who is, in some aspects libertarianish, not across the boards, but he's a free acting guy. Donald Trump should keep his tweet and his mouth closed sometimes. That said,
no one would disagree with that.
That said, Jason, he's the most productive president in American history. I
am amazed at how much energy Trump has. I mean, on the campaign trail, in the White House. And you know what? You know what the left never notices? Look at how abusive the Obamas were to the office and the taxpayers, the cadre of servants Michelle Obama had, the trips in Air Force One, bringing that entourage of over 300 people to all of these countries. I mean, Trump hasn't done any of that stuff. He hasn't abused the office like that. He hasn't started all these fruitless wars. He's gotten us out of them. He just never gets credit. That, it makes me want to support Trump just because the media is so unfair to him. I mean, just because, look at, nobody likes a bully, right? Except maybe another bully. And, you could accuse Trump of being a little bullyish sometimes, but I don't really think, he's just bombastic. That's the way he is. But the media is a bully. The media bullies Trump. And it is just ridiculous how unfair of a judge, jury, and executioner they are. It really is.
Well, this Twitter holding back the New York Post story, Facebook's holding it. This begins to get really outrageous. This begins to be, very East German communist kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it goes to show you that the left has no interest in democratic principles. No. They have no interest in tolerance. They have no interest in debate because their arguments won't withstand the scrutiny of debate. They simply vilify people and label them and negate them, and then they just censor them. I mean, and what we've got to realize is that these social media platforms have GDPs. In other words, their annual revenue of, say, Facebook is about the same as the country of Chile.
Yeah.
Do you realize how significant that is? I mean, these are not companies existing in a competitive market where you just can go somewhere else, right? These are companies that have totally monopolized their place in the market, whether they be Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Twitter, and they are it's appalling what they are doing. I mean, it's just appalling. It really is.
Not
Google,
only
don't forget Google. Lest I leave Google out, but yeah, go ahead.
Monopolizing and abusing. And if I'm close to anything, I'm libertarianish. Yet I would favor a control of these corporations so that they can't exercise that kind of abuse of the First Amendment. So absolutely. I think they ought to pull this, Article 230 or Section 230 or
of the Communications Decency Act. Yeah, the CDA. Yeah.
They should pull it.
Yeah, they absolutely should. It's ridiculous. That was created at a time when the internet was just getting off the ground. And why is it that the New York Times, as much as, the New York Times, I'm just using them as a bad example, but if they say something or print something in the New York Times, they can be sued for libel. Yet Google and Facebook and Twitter, they're just exempt from it. And then they can censor at the same time. It's absolutely ridiculous. They have the best of all worlds. It's ridiculous. I've been saying this for years, John. They need to be either split up under antitrust laws, regulated under the same types of laws utilities are regulated under, common carrier laws.
Right.
And let me just, again, for my listeners, give them an example. If we're on the phone together and the phone company doesn't like what we're talking about, as long as we're paying the bill, they don't have the right to cut off our phone service. Okay? Yet Facebook and Twitter is the most disgusting of all, but we don't know the type of censorship that, say, Google is engaged in, and even in Facebook either, right? Why do we see what we see in our news feed, right? Why do we see what we see in our search results? We don't know. It's all secret. It's like this, this kangaroo court for information. It's a star chamber. It's North Korea. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So split up under antitrust laws, regulated under common carrier laws, and or their algorithms need to be made public so everybody knows why they see what they see in their search results, etc.
I wrote a newsletter back some months ago, Jason, which started off with a representative from DARPA. I don't know if you or your listeners know DARPA's, which is basically the
military.
Dr. Strangelove of American intelligence. Very, very dark people.
That was a great movie, by the way.
Strangelove,
yeah.
So one of the great ones. They don't get any better than Peter Sellers. Anyway, a representative from DARPA, the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA sit in a room as Sergey Brin and Larry Page rollerbladed in. This is when they're getting their PhD at Stanford. This is true story. And they would give them an update on how the research was doing and the development of that algorithm. And those government agencies would cough up money. So Google was funded by government intelligence. And if you look at the recruiting of the last few years, Google's executive staff is recruited from the NSA, from the CIA, et cetera. Google is a front for government intelligence. And
Facebook's been accused of that too. Supposedly the CIA was one of the original investors in Facebook.
They just haven't been as abusive. But both of those companies, and look where they are. Look at the amount of influence they have on opinions. It's outrageous. I would agree with your comments on what should be done with them.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Well, hey, let's move on to the election. We should do a whole show sometime in the future about censorship and that, because it's absolutely ridiculous. But let me share my screen here. I've got a couple of conversation starters for you, John, and I want to get your opinion, your thoughts on some of these things, okay?
Yep.
Okay, let's just jump in here. I was going to just talk to my listeners a little bit about real estate, but this artificially low interest rates have created this massive seller's market where, properties are flying off the shelf, as you know. Just your opinion about these fake interest rates we have, these, in real terms, negative interest rates, right? If you look at the real inflation rate, just like to get your thoughts on that, because, you're a financial guy. And what do you think?
I think the Fed ought to get out of the business of keeping interest rates at zero, or as you say, minus. I mean, as you and your listeners probably may or may not know, there's, I think the figure's $13 trillion worth of actual negative interest rate bonds in Europe. And my concern is that it's coming. And there's some flawed thinking that, that's going to get people to take money out of the bank and spend it, and it's good for the economy. No, it just destroys the savings, particularly of seniors, retirees. I think it's really bad policy.
Yeah, because the rates are artificially low, and older people tend to be savers, and they use that nest egg. And now, John, they're forced into all of these much more speculative, higher risk investments that they shouldn't be investing in at their age, right? They should be able to ladder their CDs or buy some conservative bonds. And that should be their maybe municipal bonds, but we know the municipalities are in big trouble, and the pension crisis. But they can't do that anymore, can they?
No, they can't. They can't do it. And artificial is the exact right word. These interest rates, if the Fed got out of the way, would rise to where they belong. And I don't know what that number is exactly, but it's certainly not 0 or 0.25%.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Well, we have what we have, but let's talk a little bit about the election. I hope the sound comes through on this okay, but let me just play a couple of clips here. I think
Sure.
you'll enjoy some of this. It's a little levity for the intense times we're living in. So let me just move my mic over here.
We still have comedy, though. We still have great comedy out there. There's always rambling Joe Biden. What the fuck? Joe says shit that even people with Tourette's go, no. No. What is going on? Joe is like your uncle who's on a new drug and hasn't got the dosage right. I'm proud to work with Barack America. He's not a superhero, you idiot. Come here. When FDR was on television, there was no TV back then. Come here, Joe. Sit down.
Very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness. For President Trump and the demagogues around the world, Donald Trump is reelected.
Donald Trump.
He doesn't want to shed light. He wants to generate heat. And he's stoking violence in our cities.
Stoking violence.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black, it don't have nothing to do with Trump. What you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community. Where I come from, you don't get far unless you ask. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you're likely to see help out. I'm a nominated Democrat. A lifelong Democrat. A proud Democrat.
He's forgetting his name.
I'm a Democrat. And, there was, I think that the former senator I heard that familiar voice, you know what I mean, just spoke. Well, he's right about one important thing. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. I'm beginning to see why your wife left you. Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it. You know, the rapidly rising I don't know. I just spoke at Dartmouth on healthcare at the medical school, or not. I guess I wasn't actually on the campus, but the people from the medical school were at the. I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts. I'm not sure whether it was a medical school or where the hell I spoke, but it was on the campus. I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation. The president asked me to head up a cancer moonshot in another country and annex a significant portion of it called Crimea. He's saying that it was my boss,
Obama.
El Salvador and went to go in and say in Honduras and say, look, I took on Putin in terms of Iraq. In terms of what was going on in Ukraine. By investing $100 billion in education, in global warming efforts. It's a whole range of things. We can't afford it by just beginning to reward work as much as wealth. It get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down. So it was trained and then watch the hair come back up again. If you want to protect yourself, get a double-barrel shotgun. Have the shells, a 12-gauge shotgun. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman in anger. We have to just change the culture, period, and keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it. It will be a big... No, I really mean it. And immediately change the law in the state of Delaware protecting transgender people. We have to eliminate the funding gap that exists between minority white and majority white and non-white districts. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Okay, well, let's just end it there. I mean, that is so embarrassing. Can you imagine him meeting and dealing with world leaders?
Well, it's, on the one hand, you can't watch that and not laugh.
And even back to Robin Williams when he was around. I mean, wow.
Yeah. It's also sad, and it's a comment on a certain segment of the population that they would actually nominate this man to be the president of the United States. It's a
terrible
joke.
Candidate. Unbelievable. Yeah.
There's Big Bill O'Reilly. I don't know that I've seen this clip.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to play it because he's just talking a little bit about the difference, what happens if there's Biden win versus a Trump win, right? But like you were saying, I mean, what a candidate, right, John? What do you think?
Well, I think the guy should go to a retirement home. I think the Democratic Party is out of their minds. I think there must be, I can't imagine being a leader, one of the opinion leaders in the Democratic Party, and looking at this man as he stumbles through his campaign. It's scary. It's sad. Joe Biden should go back to his basement and chill out with his wife, whom he stole from a married man years ago.
I don't know that story, but there's a long history of Biden lying and deceit, and obviously crony capitalism. We know that's out of the bag now. I mean, the Hunter Biden story is
cheating on his college exams.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's this laptop business, which the mainstream media will not talk about, which is clearly he's involved in international, I don't know if it's formally money laundering, but certainly doing business in China and the Ukraine, this whole Burisma thing. I mean, if this were Trump, Adam Schiff would be nonstop. So it's a really sad commentary on the country.
It's a massive double standard, isn't it?
It's a double standard, and it makes me sad. I mean, I don't, clearly want Trump to win this election, but seeing this guy parade around his lack of intelligence, his lack of understanding of government policy, it's scary, Jason, that this guy could be elected. It's really scary.
It really is. And his lack of integrity, don't forget that one. When you compare him to Trump, I don't know that I trust Trump a whole bunch either. But the one thing I do trust about him is that I trust that he's for America and he's for the American people. And that I wholeheartedly trust. I think he'll do all kinds of sly tricks to get what he wants, but I think he really cares about the country deeply. I sense that.
Well, he does. I mean, he does. And I think that, in my opinion, I think that's grown on him as he has taken on and accepted the responsibility for running the country, and his dedication to patriotism and the military, I think, is awesome. And on the one hand, he's smart because he knows that America needs to have a strong military, yet he's not, chasing these third world wars. We've been in Afghanistan 18 years, spent $1 trillion. Thousands of young men and women have died there. What are we doing there? What in the world are we doing in Afghanistan? And at least Trump's got the guts to pull these guys home.
Yeah, no, I agree. When you look at Biden, I was trying to compare him to all of the modern presidents, John. And I wonder what you think of this analysis. You look back, and you think, okay, is Biden smarter than, by comparison, than any of these past presidents? Go back to Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush #1, Clinton, Bush #2, Obama, and Trump. I mean, Biden is dumber than any of those, right? It's just unbelievable that he could be a candidate. I'm amazed.
Well, when you have somebody that is as disingenuous as he is and who has lied as much as he has, when you get older as he has become, his ability to speak straight goes away. And all of these, past, outrageous acts, they kind of sit in his mind. And so he can't even discuss policy without stumbling. No, he's not as smart as any of the past presidents that you've mentioned. He's a joke. And he's also, I don't want to get into that too much, but
yeah, I hear you.
I met him once. I was on the board of the National Foundation of Women Legislators years ago. He was there, and this guy's a little bit a little bit of a lecher. Let me just say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Did he ask you to feel his legs?
And looked at the hair on his leg. That seems to run in the family,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really crazy. It really is. This will be continued on the next episode. Thank you for listening and happy investing. Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.